Hello, everyone. This is Jorge Molina, your immigration attorney. And today I'm excited to talk to you about some important changes for deferred action for childhood arrivals, also known as Daca. As we always do when we start these webinars, we premise everything by saying that the information that we're about to give you is based on information that we had to that date, and that any advice is limited to the information we had. So our promise, our commitment to you is to update you when there's important changes, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Now, as many of you know, and of course those that are either DACA beneficiaries or know someone or loved one of theirs is a DACA recipient or could be, very likely you've heard the news that DACA is reinstated. So today we're updating our advice from our last session regarding DACA, which was wait for the new administration to come in. Based on a recent decision, we're updating that advice and saying that you should, if you qualify for DACA, you should apply immediately. Don't wait any longer, just go ahead and file. Now, before we go into the details of the decision, what happened and everything, let's back up and let's summarize what's happened with DACA this year. So as most people know, in June 18th, 2020, the Supreme Court issued a split decision in which it ruled that the way that the current administration was trying to get rid of the DACA program was illegal, that they didn't follow the APA, and for that reason, DACA remain safe. Now, many attorneys, me included, thought that at that moment, DACA should be reinstated fully, right? Unfortunately, the administration continued trying to delay the implementation of the full program. And then the acting secretary, Chad Wolf, issued a memorandum. Now, Mr. Wolf is important in this analysis because his actions were deemed illegal. So a federal judge in New York found that since Mr. Wolf had not been confirmed by the Senate as required by law, his actions as acting secretary were unlawful, that they weren't following the letter of the law, and therefore, since they were unlawful, they could not be followed. So in Mr. Wolf's memorandum, they tried to further limit DACA to, just only individuals that had filed DACA before were eligible for that to reapply, and the work authorization permit and deferred action would be limited to 1 year, which is contrary to the letter of the original DACA memorandum of 2012. So there was a lot of litigation, and after a few months, the judge ordered CIS to rescind that memorandum and to start accepting new applications. So that's why I'm very excited about this subject, because we know that the people that it serves, the people that need this, the people who are applying, are stellar members of our society. It's really a pleasure working with DACA recipients and their relatives, parents, spouses, children, even in some cases. But anyway, so this judge on December 5th, 2020, issued a decision that USCIS had to start accepting new applications, right, under the same guidelines and policies as they were prior to 2017. So to recap, let's summarize what those requirements were, all right? So first requirement, that you entered the United States under the age of 16, all right? 1. 2, that you entered the United States on or before June 15th, 2007. 3, that had lived continuously from June 2007 until at least June 2015. And now, since we're in 2020, we also need to show that we've lived continuously in the United States since then. 4, that you completed high school or are in the process of completing high school. Okay. 5, on June 15th, 2012, you had to be under 31 years of age, right? So we have that roof of age of when you, who could apply or not apply for DACA. And then finally, never had committed a significant misdemeanor or 3 or more misdemeanors, right? So what are significant misdemeanors? A DWI is a significant misdemeanor. Domestic violence is a significant misdemeanor. So things of that nature. Now, those requirements stay the same, right? So, but what happens is that for whatever reason, if you qualify for DACA, some years ago, and you didn't apply for DACA for whatever reason, you didn't have the money, you hadn't finished high school, whatever it is, you can now qualify. You now qualify and you can now apply for DACA. So there's no restriction. So that's number 1. Then number 2, work authorization permits and the deferred action is needs to be issued to 2 years. It cannot be limited to 1 year. And there's other requirements about notifying about the class of subjects or people who would be who would benefit from this, and also to report back to the court with statistics and regarding how many people apply and stuff like that, along with some other things. So the great news is, if you haven't had applied for DACA, you can now. And our advice, again, is to do so as soon as possible. There's no reason to wait. Our reasoning before was that since the current administration is actively trying to, get rid of the program, and then the adjudication was very limited, and then they would just give you the work permit for 1 year. What was the point? Just wait for a few more months. But now, since the program is reinstated fully, advice changes. So go ahead and file. Now, this entire week, or this week and the weeks before, we've been receiving many questions regarding this matter, and I prepared a few questions to share with you that I think it's very important and will likely answer many of your questions. So the recurrent one is, well, I have a DWI, can I apply for DACA? Unfortunately, you cannot apply for DACA. That is still considered a significant misdemeanor. If you do have a DWI, and you would like to see if there's a strategy or something we could work on or something, call us or send us an email or chat, and we can see if we can do something. Maybe your case is still pending, we can plead to something else. But as it is, if you have a conviction for DWI, you're not eligible for DACA, unfortunately. Another recurring question is, well, can I apply for DACA if I'm in immigration court? Yes, you can. You can also apply for DACA if you had a removal order issued against you. Nowadays, it's going to be a little complicated or more complicated than before, because we have also very bad decisions from the current Attorney General saying that the immigration judges cannot just terminate cases unilaterally. So we need to currently convince DHS to join in motions to terminate, or explore what other things we could do with the judge. We're also hopeful that the current that the Biden administration will rescind many of the memorandums that are not, or that don't allow us to terminate cases, and also issue policy guidance regarding these sort of cases. But we need to wait and see what the future brings. Okay, so we're not fully clear on that. But my advice currently is to apply for DACA, even if you're in immigration court, because applying and getting it is your first step out of immigration court. Now, what happens if you have a removal order in your record? What we can do is well, first you need your record for immigration court, and you can still apply for DACA, but it's important to include those documents and those records, and to see the reason why you have your removal order. If it was just an in absentia order, that's not too bad. But if there was an underlying criminal activity for that, well, that's a lot more serious. So please call us or send us an email or chat, so we can assess your particular case with you. All right, now I have a few questions here in the chat. We have, all right, so it says, what happens if I entered after 2007? Well, what happens is that you don't currently qualify for DACA, right? So one of the requirements is that you enter the United States on or before June 15th, 2007. So since if you entered after 2007, you wouldn't qualify. However, it's very likely, and the President-elect Biden's transition team has announced that they plan on expanding DACA. So it's very likely that how President Obama in 2012 announced DACA and said that they were, going backwards 5 years from that point, we could do 5 years back from whenever President-elect Biden expands the program. So just to say something, let's say they announce an expansion in June 15th, 2021, and say, well, going back 5 years, that would put us in June 15, 2016. So in that case, if you entered before that, you would be eligible. So that's a very good question. Okay, so here's another important question. Can I apply for DACA if I'm unemployed? Yes. The answer is yes. No problem. As a matter of fact, most younger DACA applicants are unemployed because they're still in high school. So employment does not affect DACA eligibility one way or another. So you can definitely apply for DACA there. Okay, so here's a good question. So it says they entered before 2007, but they have left the United States in between them then and now to visit family. So if it's a short and brief trip that does usually less than 90 days, that does not interrupt continuous presence into the United States, right? So if you went home because someone got sick and then you re-entered the United States, that wouldn't be an issue. But let's say, you entered before 2007, but then your family decided to move back and you were absent for 2 years or a year or even 6 months, that would interrupt continuous presence. So the key is 90 days of absence, right? And then importantly, you need to document that absent of that, or except for that absence, you live continuously in the United States, right? So that's a very good question. So another question, what do I need to renew my DACA? What do you need? Well, you need to apply for DACA again. Usually the preliminary evidence for initial cases is a little harder once you've been given DACA. You need a copy of your employment authorization document, also a copy of the deferred action grant issued by USCIS, and then if you have finished high school since then, or your GED program, your diploma, and things like that. But that's what you need to renew DACA. All right, I have some other questions prepared, and it's in regards to, well, can you apply for DACA if you've been convicted of possession of drugs or possession of drug paraphernalia? So in my experience, the only drug offense that the government would have excused is possession of marijuana or paraphernalia relating to marijuana, as long as possession was for less than 30 grams of marijuana. Now, if it's something for something else, cocaine, crack, methamphetamine, you're out of luck. That's a very serious offense, and you cannot apply for DACA. You're not eligible. But if you have a conviction for simple possession, I've seen that those are generally approved. All right, so here's an important one. So what happens if you did not finish high school? All right. Well, first, my advice to you is, if you can, try enrolling again. All right. If you're a little too old, won't take you back. Start taking GED classes. Why? Because it doesn't matter if you're taking classes, you're eligible for DACA. And I know that, life gets in the way. Many have children, jobs, other responsibilities, but the small investment of your time and effort for a few months will render fruits for the rest of your life. So in our view, smart investment. Enroll back in high school if you can, not take your GED classes and complete the course. Regarding GED classes, it's important that you make sure that the school or institution that you're enrolling with is one that is legitimate, and that the diploma that they will issue or give you will be accepted by USC, I guess. So how do you know that? Well, you can do your own research. You can also check with the USCIS, or you can check with an attorney. We'll be happy to address or help you find the answer to those programs. All right, so how much evidence do you need? We always get this question, how much evidence do you need? Well, it depends on your case, but the more we have, the better, all right? The stronger of a case we can show. The key things to show is that you entered the United States before June 15th, 2007, that you live continuously in the United States, that you're either currently enrolled in high school, or that you already completed high school, or you're taking GED classes, right? We also need to establish that you were president of the United States on June 15th, 2012. So the best evidence for this is government-issued documents. So, for example, school transcripts, right? So that works. Or, also hospital records, or lease agreements or contracts like that. So that's very good evidence. But frankly, we're not limited to that universe of evidence. We can provide anything that shows what we're trying to show, right? So if you have photographs, we even have cases where Facebook messages and pages and stuff like that have been shared and been accepted. So, sky's the limit as long as we can establish what we're trying to establish. All right. Let's see if we have any more questions right now. Okay, so no questions right now, but I wanted to summarize what we're saying today. Again, we're updating our advice to apply for DACA as promptly as possible. The program's open, although there's still ongoing litigation, subject to change, but it seems like the current administration has run out of time to get rid of the program, and they were not successful in rescinding it. So that's great news. We can apply for DACA again. Remember that we need to follow the same requirements. Entered under the age of 16. Be president of the United States continuously since June 15th, 2007. Prove that you were in the United States on June 15th, 2012. Finish high school, not having committed any significant misdemeanors or 3 or more significant misdemeanors, and be under the age of 31 on June 15th, 2012. Again, my name is Jorge Molina. I am your immigration attorney. We're happy to answer your questions. You can send us questions or notes, comments to our email at info@jmolinalawfirm.com. We'll be happy to answer your questions. We invite you to join us in our following webinars to follow up on these important subjects and other developments. Again, my name is Jorge Molina, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.